I'm happy to see everybody seated. We start the second session, which has two presentations. The first presentation is by Andrew
Buchanan.
Buchanan, sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Scottish names are like Greek names, impossible to pronounce.
Well, don't say it to the guy that did a PhD in Aberdeen. I can speak Aberdonian.
Good. Yes. Okay, please.
Andrew, you're a member of your... What am I looking at here? I'm sorry.
Is it easier if I explain?
Okay, you explain.
Okay. Can you give me the mic, please? Just in case.
Yes.
Right. Very simply, I'm here, as will become clear, to talk to you about the FoMA pathclearing project. My background is not in agriculture. My background is not in academic study. My background is in film and television. I've been fortunate to go to many, many beautiful places in the world, you know, when making wildlife films. But the most beautiful place I've been to, and I hope that we will be able to share some of this with you in my life so far, has been the Holy Mountain. Yes.
Ο Άντριου λέει ότι δεν έχει καμία σχέση με το φυσικό περιβάλλον σαν γεωπόνος, δασολόγος, βιολόγος, αλλά ασχολείται με την τηλεόραση, με την εικόνα, η οποία είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντική. Επισκέπτεται πολλά μέρη του κόσμου και προσπαθεί με την ειδικότητά του να δώσει σε εμάς, τα ακροατήρια, στους κοινούς ανθρώπους, την εικόνα. Έτσι, μεταφέρει την εικόνα, λοιπόν.
And one further thing before I start the planned section. I would like to apologise to everybody in the room about the poor quality of the projections behind us. We are trying to show you the beauty of the Holy Mountain and the incredible detail of the scientific research which my colleagues who spoke earlier this evening have given, and those of us in the room were unable to see it properly. I apologise for that. I understand if you are watching this live online that you are able to see the slides, and if you want to see the full beauty of some of the images, but also the detail of the scientific work, when you look at the YouTube recording on the Mount Athos Centre website, it will have the correct colour and the correct clarity of images. So please accept our apologies for the poor quality of this.
Κάτω στο διάλειμμα βρήκα την ευκαιρία να προσθέσω και τα δικά μου παράπονα σε αυτά που είπε μόλις ο Άντριου Buchanan. Ζητάει συγγνώμη που ενώ τα χρώματα στο Άγιον Όρος είναι φανταστικά, η χαμηλή ποιότητα, ας το πω έτσι, της προβολής δεν τα αποδίδει αυτά. Περισσότεροι συγγνώμη ζητούμε, και εγώ μαζί, από τις κυρίες που βρίσκονται στο ακροατήριο, οι οποίες δεν μπορείτε να επισκεφτείτε το Άγιον Όρος. Εμείς το επισκεπτόμαστε, τουλάχιστον έχουμε δει αυτά τα φανταστικά χρώματα. Ζητούμε συγγνώμη λοιπόν που δεν θα δείτε τα χρώματα στην πραγματικότητα. Εάν όμως μπείτε, λέει ο Άντριου, στο YouTube, τότε εκεί θα μπορέσετε να δείτε τα πραγματικά χρώματα των διαφανειών. Αυτό είναι κάτι που προσθέτω τώρα σαν Στέφανος. Χρόνια προσπαθούμε να κάνουμε καλές φωτογραφίες, να στήσουμε αυτή την προβολή στο PowerPoint για να σας δείξουμε την ομορφιά αυτής της Χερσονήσου, αυτού του τόπου. Και ξαφνικά ή έχουμε φώτα δυνατά ή έχουμε ένα προβολέα που τέλος πάντων. Λοιπόν, ζητούμε συγγνώμη γι' αυτό. Συγγνώμη. Ναι, σωστά κύριε Διευθυντά, οι φωτογραφίες κάτω είναι πραγματικά τα πραγματικά χρώματα. Anastasia just said that the pictures downstairs in the exhibition, they have the real colors. Okay, good.
Mobile phone, somebody? the plague of modern society and a plague on the Holy Mountain. Good evening. I would like to start by thanking the Mount Athos Centre, the Thessaloniki History Centre, and the Friends of Mount Athos for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about the rationale, origin, growth, and aims of the Friends of Mount Athos Footpaths project. Over the last 19 years, I have walked many of the Holy Mountain's calderimi and paths, and I know from my pilgrimages that this is an excellent way to experience the natural wonders of this unique World Heritage Site. In fact, it is probably the very best way. Next slide, please. Of course, I'm far from the only person who shares this view. And as we heard earlier, it's thanks to one person in particular that FoMA's Footpaths project came into being back in 2001. The then Prince of Wales, now King Charles III, our royal patron. As most of you will already know, the King has a strong personal connection with the natural world and has long been a champion for the preservation of wildlife and its habitat. He clearly understands the physical, mental, and spiritual benefits of being out in nature. During his visits to the Holy Mountain, our King saw that many of the footpaths were becoming overgrown, and that eventually this might limit monks and pilgrims to using only dusty roads. Walking through a dust cloud from a passing truck is not a good way for the pilgrim to engage with and appreciate the wonders of the surrounding landscape. So, His Royal Highness decided that something must be done. And when the heir to the throne of Great Britain says that, we Brits listen. The Prince of Wales, as he then was, next slide please, already knew and supported the work of the Friends of Mount Athos, as in fact had his father, Prince Philip. And the Prince decided that FoMA would be a good umbrella organisation for a project to clear some of the Holy Mountain's footpaths. So in 2001, my FoMA colleague and good friend, John Arnell, volunteered to organise a reconnaissance pilgrimage. And he recruited a small team of volunteers in order to ensure that the team's work was done to the necessary high standard. Andy Rockall from the British Trust for Conservation Volunteers, who has considerable experience of footpath clearing and conservation, joined the group. The Holy Monastery of Vatopedi generously agreed to host 12 members of the team, many of whom were making their very first pilgrimage to the Holy Mountain. Next slide, please. A daily routine was quickly established. Leave the monastery at 7 a.m, walk to the area to be cleared, work until about 3 p.m, with short breaks for water and a longer break for lunch, and then return in time for the evening service in the Catholicon and a shared meal in the refectory. Then Vespers, veneration of the holy relics and icons, and early to bed so as to be ready for the next day. This pattern, with a few minor variations, is still the one we use. The footpaths had, of course, had some work done on them by monks and workers, and also by a small team of volunteers organised by Reinhold Schwerger, who is better known for making the first recent accurate map of the Holy Mountain's paths. Despite these people's efforts, encroaching vegetation had reduced many of the paths to less than 50 centimetres wide, and some had entirely disappeared. Next slide. No, we've gone too far. Down, back one, back one. There we are. That. No, forward one. There we are. Thank you. So that is the situation that many of the paths were in when the Footpaths project started. To preserve the peace of the landscape and to minimise the risk of accidents, All the work was done and continues to be done with hand tools. Each member of the team has a lopper. And a small saw. And a larger saw, a bow saw, is available for thicker branches. Using just these two tools, they cut back plants, bushes and small trees until the paths are about 2 meters wide and high enough for a mule and rider. Next slide. So you can see here the difference between a path before and the same path afterwards. I think a mule and a monk could get through there. His Royal Highness joined the working party for a couple of days, helping to clear a heavily overgrown area around an old fountain. So I'm sure you recognise this person here. Now, amongst this group, somewhere there's, so here are the early people, and here is Andy from the British Trust for Conservation Volunteers. And I'm not sure exactly where this is, but it's probably on Vatapedi ground. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so in 2001, this small but committed team cleared about 5 kilometres of footpaths. And again, remember they're just at Vatapedi. So they worked up towards Hera, and if the colour was better, you could see, and along the way, along the coast, towards Espigmenu and Hillandar. But they also managed to survey a number of other routes. And so they cleared about 5 kilometres of footpaths and 26 kilometres of paths and tracks. So after that first year at Vatapedi, more monasteries agreed to host small teams to work on the paths leading to them. In 2011, 11 years after the first pilgrimage, it was 4 monasteries: Vatapedi, Hillandar, Pantokrator and Kukimusiu, with 8 paths being maintained. By 2018, 14 monasteries and sketies had teams based at them. And in May this year, the same number of monasteries and sketies once again provided our projects with accommodation. The number of FoMA members participating has grown too, from 12 in 2001 to 20 in 2010 and 34 in May this year. Next slide. Here they are on the boat going back. The very first group was predominantly British, but over the years, members from Greece, the USA, Canada, France, Belgium, Italy, Poland, Sweden, and Zambia have given their time to work on the footpaths. These mixed nationalities are reflected in the different churches our members belong to. An increasing number are Orthodox, and there's still a significant number of Anglicans, along with Presbyterians, Catholics, and even a couple of Quakers. It's absolutely fascinating to see how this diverse group quickly becomes a cohesive whole, bound together by their shared experience of the deep spiritual life and beautiful nature of the Holy Mountain. Next slide, please. Our annual pattern, except for COVID years, is a 2-week pilgrimage in May, with the majority of the team coming for both weeks and spending each of these weeks in a different monastery. This allows them to experience the unique rhythms and practices of 2 monasteries and to see a larger area of the Holy Mountain. There are also a few members who come for just 1 week. This allows men with work and family commitments to participate. In recent years, we've also introduced a walking team. Rather than being based at a single monastery for 7 nights, they move on each day, working as they carry their packs. It can be hard and tiring, but it allows the project to check and clear more paths. Next slide, please. The growth of the footpath project over the last 25 years and the increasing number of monasteries and sketies that give us hospitality have allowed us to work on and walk along an extensive network of paths. All these paths have been checked and surveyed, and the most used routes, those between monasteries and those that lead to carriers, are regularly cleared and maintained. Others are checked and cleared when necessary, or when a monastery requests it. Next slide, please. Now just remember how little had been cleared and mapped in that first one, and now look at this. As you can see, the network of routes includes not only the major cleared routes between monasteries, but also many of the smaller paths which link sketies and cells. The total network now covers nearly 1,000 kilometres path and includes the greater part of the Holy Mountain. Next slide, please. Just go back one, please. No, it's the darker lines that are cleared, or where they need clearing, and where we have a detailed path description, and where I think the yellow lines are actually roads in this case. So these are the paths which we clear where needed, and we survey in order to make sure that the amount of work they need. Come on to that later. Once the footpaths project was established, we started thinking about how we might help other pilgrims share the rich experiences that come from walking through this unique landscape. The Holy Mountain is, of course, peaceful and beautiful, but the distances between monasteries and the steep terrain can occasionally put a pilgrim in danger. It's possible to get disoriented or lost. And in the early days of the project, there was no GPS, and the only readily available maps were not always up to date and often lacked detail. Some of these maps included paths which had become overgrown and impassable, making wayfinding both difficult and potentially dangerous. This was particularly true and dangerous when there was little or no mobile phone signal on Mount Athos. The monks and the workers who use these paths, of course, know the routes, but pilgrims, especially first-timers, or those with little experience of walking in challenging terrain, might feel uneasy about setting out on a path they don't know. So to help walkers find their way and reach their destination monastery safely, the project approached the monasteries and was given permission to put up signposts at important junctions and in places where the route is less obvious. Mindful of the traditions of the Holy Mountain, our signs have a dark red background and use a traditional font. They're ordered in advance and delivered in time for each year's path clearing. For the first few years, the signs were mounted on long metal poles. But as the project developed and took on longer and more remote routes, the difficulty getting picks, spades, and heavy poles to where they were needed became obvious. So we moved to using smaller, lighter signs that fit in a backpack. The signs are blank, and each team has a pack of transfers which they can put on them to make a sign that is just right for that specific place. So you don't need to know which side of the path you're going to put it before you set out to put it. And can I have the next slide, please? If you walk many of the paths we clear and maintain, as well as the signposts, you'll see small pieces of orange ribbon tied to branches along the route. These little orange markers tell the pilgrim that they're still on a checked route, providing reassurance between signposted junctions. Cleared paths with signs and bits of orange ribbon are of course helpful for pilgrims. But what else might be done to give them confidence about their chosen route before they leave a monastery, or even when they are at home planning a pilgrimage? The answer, of course, is a detailed written description of the route, including clear directions. So the project started to make written footpath descriptions and create GPS tracks to accompany them. we're very fortunate in having David Bain among the FoMA members. Not only is he a keen long-distance walker, but his profession demanded an extremely high degree of accuracy. David took on the huge job of compiling and managing the written path descriptions. Next slide. I'll just stop for a minute. So again, you can see here you get the path and you get roughly how long the distance, and here you can see, what you do and the distance to the next point where you have to do something, where you have to turn right, turn left. So this is an early version. This is the first version of the Carriers to Vatopedi route. For a start, from the start, the aim was to make them easy to understand and unambiguous. Most pilgrims do not have English as a first language. The descriptions include the expected walking times and distances, as well as I explained, the instructions like turn left, turn right. In 2007, the first 14 route descriptions were added to the FoMA websites as free downloads. Each route has 2 separate versions. As an example, one for those walking from Vatopedi to Carriers, and the other version for from Carriers to Vatopedi. After a few years, occasional descriptive words were included to provide reassurance. Turn right, uphill. From the single word uphill, the pilgrim can tell if he has taken the correct right turn. Next slide. In these days of readily available handheld electronics, GPS tracks are another important route tool for route finding. So, as I mentioned earlier, we started to record tracks for every path we worked on, and later added tracks for many more. In 2016, we added the GPS tracks waypoints to the descriptions. Next slide, please. And these are the numbers in red that you can see here. So if you have a GPS, like in the previous picture on my very basic phone, you can follow where you are from these, and you can see how close you are to the path. Gradually, as the project grew and evolved, the number of descriptions grew, from the initial 14 to the current 88, 44 separate routes. Imagine the job of keeping all that lot up to date. All of these and a large number of GPS tracks are still free to download from the FoMA website. Next slide. The list that you find on the website also includes condition reports for each path. So here it says, when it was last walked and who walked it. So you can see when it was done. It also, you can see who it was done and made by whom. A very important development was the decision to translate every one of these route descriptions into Greek and add these for download. This huge task is only just one of the many responsibilities undertaken by Dimitri Bakalis, whose importance to the footpath projects should never be underestimated. Next slide, please. So here we are. It's the same, but it's in Greek. Even on the Holy Mountain, there is change. Sometimes a new road or fire break is created. A landslide blocks a path, or a ruined chapel is lovingly restored. So during each path-clearing pilgrimage, detailed notes are taken, then used to make any necessary changes to route descriptions or GPS tracks. Next slide, please. In fact, as you heard earlier, some of us at today's symposium returned to Thessaloniki yesterday after a 7-night pilgrimage. During this, we were hosted by 16 monasteries, 1 skete and 1 cell. So we have checked the condition of many of the major paths throughout the Holy Mountain, from Hilandar right the way down to the desert and Great Lavra. We will create a report for the leaders of the May 2025 path-clearing pilgrimage, so they know which routes to prioritise, and pass on details of any changes needed to the route descriptions. Additional reports are often sent to us by individual FoMA members who are on pilgrimage and by other pilgrims. This regular checking and reporting ensures that the descriptions and GPS tracks are kept up to date. Next slide, please. In 2024, nearly 3,000 people accessed the path descriptions page on the FoMA website, with around 75% of that 3,000 downloading at least one GPX track or route description. The GPS tracks, of course, have another very important use. They're passed to Peter Howarth, also a member of the Footpaths team, and become one of the many elements he uses in creating the accurate and constantly updated Philothenetes map of the entire peninsula. Next slide, please. As you'll have been able to see from today's programme, the next speaker is indeed Peter, who will talk in detail about the development and uses of maps of the Holy Mountain and how they can enhance the pilgrims' involvement with and understanding of the landscape. The map also provides extremely useful information for a wide variety of users. So, in conclusion, sometimes people ask, why do you go to the Holy Mountain to clear footpaths? I cannot answer for everyone, but here are my reasons. I'm given the huge privilege of visiting a priceless World Heritage Site and experiencing for a fleeting few days the ancient rhythm and rituals of the true Orthodox Church. Above all, I spend my days working in and surrounded by a landscape full of the natural wonders of creation. The path clearing was my way of allowing other pilgrims to share my extreme good fortune and to share the unique nature, beauty and tranquility of the Holy Mountain. Next slide. An obvious question is the project a success? I think there are a number of reasons why we might say that it is. For a start, the project is now planning for its 26th year. It has grown in scope and numbers. It is welcomed by a significant number of monasteries and sketies and has cleared, described and waymarked this network I mentioned earlier, 44 important paths. In addition, we have walked and reported on hundreds of the minor ones. Next slide. Okay. I think that the most important measure of success has to be the increase, admittedly a slow one, in people using the footpaths, despite the ease offered by a minibus. I'm not aware of any reliable figures for the increase, but when we're working on the paths, we certainly see more pilgrims than we used to. A high point in any path clearing day is when a passing pilgrim thanks us, or a priest stops to give us a blessing. We're also blessed in having a number of organisations and people who support our footpaths project. We owe a huge and enduring debt of gratitude to the monasteries and sketies that host us. Without their generous welcome and guidance, the project could not take place. The Holy Epistasia graciously provides and expedites our dear monetarians, and the Sete Group and the Latsis Foundation contribute significant funds each year to support our travel costs. Where did I get to? Here we are. We also need to thank the many FoMA members, nearly 2,000 who have come to the Holy Mountain, nearly 200 who have come to the Holy Mountain since 2001 to work on the footpaths, some for a single visit. Others return year after year. We must remember particularly those who are no longer with us. May their memory be eternal. We must also be grateful for the small group of FoMA members led by Christopher Thomas, who volunteer their time and expertise to plan and organise this complex project, and to the FoMA committee and our royal patron King Charles for their continued support. Next slide. That, I think, shows the growth of the project. Next slide, please. So, what about the future of the footpaths project? FoMA intends to carry on with the clearing and maintenance of this important network for as long as the Holy Community and the individual monasteries wish, and as long as we have able-bodied members who wish for help in the maintenance of the ancient paths, those ancient paths that wind through the wonderful, natural, beautiful landscape of the Holy Mountain. The project's main focus will be on the existing network of paths, in particular those linking monasteries and the section of the ridge path known as the Way of the Bay, which runs along the ridge from Hillendar to Carriers. We will respond to the needs of monasteries for work on additional paths and to any alterations to the network needed to cope with changing pilgrim numbers. In particular, we welcome the news of the €100 million funding for heritage restoration, which was announced recently by Prime Minister Mitsotakis. The ancient footpaths which wind through this unique natural landscape are an integral part of that heritage, and the Friends of Mount Athos will continue to play our small role in the restoration and preservation of the garden of the all-holy Theotokos. Thank you. Of course.
Okay.
So relieved to have finished.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I must confess that you're doing an immense, very impressive, and very substantial piece of work there. And let me say this, you also introduce new mentality to the pilgrims. Don't visit the monasteries by car or by taxi, just walk along the trails. They are open now and they're safe. Thank you, thank you. Yes.
I was talking to an elder the other night about the question raised in a recent talk in honour of Bishop Callistos Ware. And the theme of the talk was the difference between tourism and pilgrimage. And the elder, as is so often happens on Mount Athos, said something to me very simple, but also which really, I felt really touched me. The difference is simple. The tourist goes somewhere expecting the place to shape itself to the tourist's needs. The pilgrim goes there waiting to be shaped to what that environment, that place, that culture it will do for him. And that, to me, it expressed a lot of really, to me, encapsulated what I feel about going to Mount Athos. I'm going there in order to learn, to shape, and to help others have the same experience. Thank you.
Yes, we have a little time for questions. Έχουμε χρόνο για ερωτήσεις, παρακαλώ, αν υπάρχουν. Παρακαλώ, η κυρία.
I can answer this from the perspective of my wife. It's always a good answer to answer things from the perspective of your wife. My wife finds deep sadness that she cannot come with me to experience the spiritual and natural life of the Holy Mountain. A VR or videos or whatever of the Holy Mountain would of course help people who, either because they're women, and we understand absolutely the reason why the monasteries and the Holy Community have for so long excluded and asked women not to come, but also for people who have disabilities, or people who do not have the funds or the time to come to the Holy Mountain. Yes, of course, those would help, but they would only be a poor imitation of what it is like to be out on the footpaths. Now, I wish that we could make a proper VR. I wish that we could have surround sound with three-dimensional headsets so that everybody on this planet could share that wonderful beauty. Now, perhaps somewhere listening there is somebody who has the funding. But again, something like that could only be done with the gracious permission of the Holy Epistasia and, of course, the monasteries. And, you know, until recently, any film camera was banned from the Holy Mountain. So I'm afraid to say that, yes, it would be lovely to do, but right now, I'm afraid it's just the current YouTube videos.